So welcome to Washington. On the 98th night, a raid in Denver for all to see. And waking up this morning on day 99 on the North Lawn, images of arrested migrants. Perhaps before you might have even had your first cup of coffee this morning, the White House holding an early morning briefing. And they claim their policies along the southern border are just getting started. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. We are taking you on the road tonight. Our Brian Entin bringing back his Driving the Vote series. What Brian is seeing tonight in the state that the president will rally in tomorrow. Plus, is it a political fumble? Why the NFL star Saquon Barkley is telling his critics to back off after he flew with the president aboard Air Force One. And he's viewed as a likely 2028 candidate. Why one billionaire governor is now calling for mass protests. But first tonight here on the Hill, the statement from the White House today. Mick Mulvaney on where his former boss heads from here. Brian Entin tonight on what voters are telling him out on the road. But we begin with our Kelly Meyer live at the White House this evening. Kelly, it was 8:35 in the morning today. And there was the press secretary behind the podium. She says she's going to do the same exact thing tomorrow, by the way, on this 100-day, first 100 days of the second term. It's kind of the flood the zone strategy that we saw from the president himself and the White House saying, this is where we are tonight.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I was thinking about a lot today, Blake, that this is this strategy going into the 100-day and the week of celebration, that they're really kicking it off today, even though tomorrow marks that first 100 days celebration. But they're really trying to flood the zone, as you said, and really trying to get their message out there and highlighting a different issue on each day of the week, essentially. You see this, and that was what was behind me in that live shot just there, the lawn signs, essentially, of different mug shots of those that the administration says were arrested, illegal aliens, and the crime they committed allegedly below their photos. That was what was on the White House North Lawn as we arrived today, all leading up to the West Wing, all leading up to that early, rare White House press briefing focused on the border and immigration. She brought out border czar Tom Homan with her and talked about what they have done in these first 100 days. They're really trying to amplify and really ramp up their message for this 100-day celebration week they have, essentially. Tomorrow they're going to go into the economy more. He has a trip back to Michigan, a state that handed him the win. He's going to a county there to hold a campaign-style rally, something that we've seen President Trump do often, that he enjoys doing, and he's going to be celebrating his first 100 days as we continue to watch what else they have lined up here this week. Blake.
All right, our Kelly Meyer live tonight on the North Lawn. Kelly, thank you. So as part of a media blitz, the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt today celebrating the administration's work so far.
President Trump's first 100 days have undoubtedly been the most monumental and historic of any administration in American history.
All right, so that's the White House today, but we wanted to give you a look tonight at campaign promises fulfilled and, on the other side, really, boxes unchecked, as it can also tell a part of the story of what could come next. All right, so here's the check boxes, right? For example, the number of daily encounters along the southern border substantially down in February and March, the first 2 months in the president's administration. President Trump also launched the Department of Government Efficiency, so far estimating, they say, somewhere around $160 billion in savings, though, of course, there were talks at the initial parts of really trillions of dollars in savings, but still, Elon Musk and Doge happening. Now, whether you think he's right or wrong to do so, campaign promise fulfilled. The president imposed tariffs on more than 180 countries, and the U.S. and China right now are in the middle yet again of a full-blown trade war, tariffs at 145%. All right, so those are the check boxes. These now the unchecked ones. End the war in Ukraine, which the president promised would be done in the first 24 hours of him taking office. Now he says that was made in jest. And in the pipeline, sprawling tax cuts. The president meeting this afternoon with Republican leaders. Now, that was always expected to take months. Now Republicans have to deliver. Also, not yet accomplished, a stock market boom. Since the president took office, all major stock indices are down. With me now, Mick Mulvaney, former Trump White House Chief of Staff, NewsNation contributor. Hello, sir. Happy Monday. Welcome to the week of 100 days.
Hello, Berman, and greetings from Miami, a city I think you're probably familiar with.
Born and raised in the 305, I was. Nice to talk to you from there. So let's talk about the check boxes, right? And no matter what you think, Mick, about the president and his priorities, his policies, on immigration, the White House clearly has a story to tell. Down along the southern border, encounters are down, I don't know, the math, 93, 95, 97%, whatever it is. It's a lot. It's down significantly. Where do you expect the White House to go from here, Mick?
On immigration, I expect them to continue to push hard. I think you're already seeing that in sort of the way that the administration has responded to some of the court rulings. They believe that immigration was an important issue in the election, and they're probably right about that. They believe they're making headway on it, and they are absolutely right about that. So I completely expect them to continue to push hard on immigration because it's something that makes them look good. It's a success story for them. They've struggled, as you pointed out, on other things like the war in Ukraine, but this has been an unmitigated success. If there's any sort of criticism of it, it's that they've done too much, which is exactly the sort of criticism that the Trump administration welcomes.
What do you mean by that?
That they're being too harsh on people, that they're pushing too hard, they're pushing the envelope, etc. Okay. I think they welcome that. I think that's exactly what they promised during the election, and that's what they're delivering.
All right. So that's immigration, and tomorrow the White House is going to talk about the economy, right? I don't think it's coincidental, Mick, that they went immigration first and economy second. The economy is the more challenging one for them, right? And so this was a chart that caught my attention. Apollo Global Management, one of the massive asset managers, as you know, in this country. Show that real quick. Let's bring it up, because here's what they are talking about with tariffs, Mick. So let me walk you through the timeline. April 2nd, of course, quote unquote, Liberation Day, right? But here's sort of what their chief economist projects out. Early to mid-May, container ships to the U.S. at ports, they stop, right? Because basically we're at a trade embargo with China. Mid to late May, trucking demand comes to a halt. Then you get to the end of next month, early June, layoffs in trucking and retail. And then they suggest maybe, question mark, who knows, question mark, if there's going to be a recession or not. But this is the timeline, Mick, that the White House could possibly be dealing with right now when it comes to negotiating among Republicans that tax bill, and also as the president tries to negotiate trade deals.
Yeah, and you're right. They mentioned immigration first because it's a winner for them. The economy is still very much unsettled. They're going to have to deliver on some of these promises, Blake. It is the economy, stupid, as James Carville famously said in the 1990s, and it still is. President Trump's approval ratings are down because people's confidence in the economy is down. Their confidence in his ability to handle the economy is down. He scared a lot of people with his approach to tariffs and trade. The White House says it's all part of a master plan. We'll sort of give them some leeway on that, but they have to deliver. If you end up in a recession this summer, it's not going to impact Donald Trump because he's not running for election again, but it's going to have a dramatic impact on the midterm elections. This is no longer Joe Biden's economy. This is Donald Trump's economy.
Hey, Mick, in Washington today, they were talking about the tax bill, right? And Republicans, they delivered the framework earlier this month. Here was what the president told Republicans at the time. I want to get your reaction.
It's a phenomenal bill. Stop grandstanding. Just stop grandstanding. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
He was saying that to his own party. And the reason why I bring that up, and I see you smiling, is because as we look back at the first 100 days, the next 100 largely, I believe, is going to be dominated about this talk on getting the tax bill done.
Yeah, and it's going to turn on spending. That grandstanding comment was directed at certain people who were not comfortable with what the Senate had done in terms of reducing spending. Look, at the end of the day, the question is this: is it easier to raise taxes in Washington, D.C., or is it easier to cut spending? I think one of the reasons you've heard the administration sort of float the idea of raising taxes on the rich is that they realize they might have to do that in order to quote unquote, pay for these tax cuts. I will watch the spending very closely in the next 100 days. With Elon Musk leaving Doge, will Doge run out of gas? Will they actually be able to reduce spending? Or at the end of the day, will they have to raise taxes on the rich in order to pay for, and again, that's in air quotes, pay for no taxes on tips and no taxes on Social Security.
Mick Mulvaney, live for us in Miami. Have fun tonight. Not too much fun. Mick, we'll see you tomorrow in person. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, including today's executive orders, President Trump has now signed more than 140 of them, approaching the total number of executive orders signed by the Biden administration over 4 years. Now, those EOs range from top priorities for voters, immigration, the economy, to some that may not have been on the top of minds for voters, like making sure truckers speak English and AI in our schools. And polling from Decision Desk HQ and The Hill shows mixed views on the president's first 100 days. Roughly 45% of Americans approve of his presidency, while 53% disapprove. Our Drive in the Vote series. Time for that, which we're going to bring to you all week. Our Brian Enton once again hitting the road for us live tonight with us here on The Hill. Brian, where are you tonight? Where are you headed?
We are on the road, Blake. We are driving right now through Indiana. We're on our way to Illinois. We've got this NewsNation RV, so we've upped our game since last time. We got Henry behind the wheel here. Beautiful cornfields in the background. We got a little kitchen. We got a little bed. But we started in Philly. We went to the same barber shop we went to before the election for our series. This is what we found out.
Before I get pressed, I'm murked. Better days prayed for, but
what do you think about Trump?
Donald Trump? I like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump.
You want to cut the hair down too?
Nah, you just take that down a little bit, man. I think he's warming up. He's warming up. Gotta give him a little time.
What do you make of the first 100 days?
First 100 days, what do I make of it? Some of the actions that he chose, I really don't understand. Taking the boys out of the girls' sports is kind of okay, because I feel like there's a reason for women's sports and there's a reason for boys' sports to make it equal.
I like he's protecting the border. I like how his policies are directed towards America first. The tariffs are very terrifying, but I see the necessity. It could backfire. It could be very, very bad. But risk is called risk. He's a businessman. All business is risk.
So the price to replace clippers has gone up easily about 35%, and the product hasn't increased value.
So will you pass that price on to your customer?
I can't. No, I wouldn't. Now, what I just do, I hope to get more customers.
What do you make of like the immigration stuff going on, the deportations and that kind of thing?
That's touchy. You know, I know a lot of people who are native to this country. You know, they come here, work visas and different things like that. You know, so, but I mean, if you're here illegally, I guess that's breaking the law, right?
Why do you think so many people assume African Americans don't like Trump?
I don't think that's an assumption that's made by the African Americans. That's made by the media. We all are hot and cold on different issues. I didn't say I love him. I said that, you know, on certain issues, I'm in accord with him. I never loved every president. I mean, I didn't love Barack Obama. Some things I like, some things I don't like.
So interesting, Blake, to go back to that same barbershop right there in inner city Philly. A lot of support for President Trump there. But you notice the one barber mentioned, he's concerned about tariffs. His clippers have gone up 35%. That was really top of mind for him. Blake?
It looks beautiful behind you where you're driving through there, by the way, in the state of Indiana. We'll catch you on the road tomorrow.
Yeah, so nice. Look at this. Oh, my gosh.
Amazing. America behind you in full force. Our Brian Enton live for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow, Brian. Thank you. All right, still to come tonight here on The Hill. A governor calls for change not only within his own party, but a lot more than that.
We need to knock off the rust of poll-tested language, decades of stale decorum.
That is J.B. Pritzker, possible candidate for president. So why is he talking about mass protests? The Hill, coming right back.
Have I called for mass protests? for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. Those same do-nothing Democrats want to blame our losses on our defense of black people, of trans kids, of immigrants, instead of their own lack of guts and gumption.
That, of course, is the Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker in New Hampshire last night, bashing Republicans, even the Democratic Party as well, as the Democratic Party searches for a new leader and identity. The governor is fueling speculation, possibly about a 2028 run for president. He's not the only one. The Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, they've been on the road for their Fighting Oligarchy tour. The event's drawing thousands of people, but it's also facing criticism from other Democrats. For example, the Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin says they should stop using the word oligarchy. The senator responding.
I think the American people are not quite as dumb as Ms. Slotkin thinks they are. I think they understand very well when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. When big money interests are able to control both political parties, they are living in an oligarchy. And these are precisely the issues that have got to be talked about.
According to key polls, the Democratic Party's approval rating is the lowest in nearly 2 decades. Joining me now in studio, Democratic governor from the state of Delaware, just down the road, Matt Meyer. Governor, nice to see you as always.
Good to see you, Blake.
Thanks for being with us.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. I learned about him. J.B. Pritzker, mass protests, Republicans, don't give him a moment of peace. What do you make of him saying that? Should he be saying that? And how does that square with the message that should be coming from your party?
Blake, I think it's a funny thing to say here in the Beltway in D.C. I'm just visiting. At this time, with all this craziness going on, I think the party that's going to win, the person that's going to win the future is whoever delivers for Americans. What I see in Delaware every day are school children who are not getting quality public education. I see people struggling with 401ks that are decreasing. I see veterans who've suddenly been laid off from federal jobs. We can sit here and complain about it and cause havoc, but what we need to do first and foremost is make sure we're delivering for people in this very challenging time. That's what we're trying to do in Delaware. I know that's what Governor Pritzker actually is trying to do in Illinois.
So when you look at Pritzker, when you look at Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Senator Sanders, and you see all these messages out there, who do you think's on the right path? For your party,
I don't really. I know there's a lot of, especially now, people. Who's going to be the next person to lead the Democratic Party? The Republican Party right now, actually for a decade, has chosen a person, and whatever that person says or does, that's what the policy of the party is. The Democratic Party is different. We're a party of policy. We're a party of people that's truly going to deliver for people. So my belief is whatever person or group comes up with the policies that are going to win the future in terms of a true economic future for working families. Everybody's been talking about bringing down prices. There was a Democratic president, I like President Biden. Then there's been a Republican president, President Trump. The price of eggs in my community keep going up and up and up. The price of gas that was promised to go down is not going. So I think, the future of our party is whoever can solve these very challenging problems. There's increasing technology. All of us have these things that do incredible technology, but life is getting harder and harder for working people. I think a lot of people, quite frankly, a lot of good people thought that President Trump may address that issue when he came in. 100 days in, it doesn't look too good. It's getting even harder and harder.
I guess the question for Democrats is, how do they fight and how should they fight? And should they fight with the volume turned all the way up?
And I think, listen, fight is part of it. There's some stuff going on that's absolutely...
Do you even think they should fight?
There's stuff going on that's reprehensible and deserves to be fought. I'm the only governor in America, the only sitting governor, who is in a program called AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is about service. It's about people sometimes making $15,000, $20,000 a year to teach in our communities, to tutor kids, to support veterans, to help disabled, to help all sorts of people who are struggling in our communities. That program has effectively been terminated. I just, before I came in here, was on the phone trying to figure out over 100 of these AmeriCorps members in Delaware today who are going to be out of work in a week. There are U.S. citizens, children, including someone who's a cancer patient, being deported from our country. That deserves us all to go to the streets and say this is wrong. But there's also issues where we have to deliver. The overwhelming majority of Americans, right, are looking for someone who's going to deliver for them. That means increasing services and reduce cost. What we're seeing now out of Washington is increasing cost and reduced services.
You're wearing a green tie. It's not coincidental.
It's not coincidental.
Because you are among the biggest Philadelphia Eagles fans on the world. I think it's safe to say.
There's some pretty, I don't paint my face, but yeah, okay. I'm pretty big. Yeah.
They were in town today, and Saquon Barkley, the star, people are upset with him because he played golf with Donald Trump, then flew on Air Force One with him, and he said today, get out of my mentions with all this politics and have an amazing day. He's catching grief for playing golf with the President of the United States. How upsetting is that, or is it not to you that that's the case, that he can't go out there and say, you know what, I played golf with Barack Obama, I played golf with Donald Trump, leave me alone.
I like Saquon Barkley because he can run a football really well. He can put the football in his arms and ends up
So I guess you're agreeing with him, right? Like, don't worry about the politics.
I think, quite frankly, I think all of us need to play a role. I think there are people who we need to go out on the street. I was protesting a week and a half ago in Delaware. Over 1,000 people came to one of 3 or 4 protests in Delaware. And that might not sound a lot to a lot of people out there. In Delaware, 1,000 people is a lot of people, right? I think there are times and there are people who like going up and chaining themselves to a building, getting arrested. That's important. That's an important part of any movement. But there are also people who need to go into the House and Senate behind us and make votes. There are people that need to sit down with the president who share my values, who need to negotiate.
Do you think he should be catching grief for what he did?
I don't. I think people should express their view. Given the choice to go golfing with President Trump, I probably wouldn't do it. Maybe I go mini golfing. I'm not much of a golfer. Maybe it's out of personal embarrassment. But yeah, I don't. Among the issues facing us now, let's talk about American citizens who are locked up in El Salvador, legal immigrants who are locked up in El Salvador without due process. Who Saquon goes golfing with is less of a road.
I got to leave it there. Governor Matt Meyer,
thanks,
Democrat from Delaware. Thank you, sir. We'll catch you again next time. All right, still much more ahead tonight here on The Hill. A massive immigration bust at a club in Colorado. A senior advisor to Customs and Border Patrol joins us live on the other side of the break. And a live look right now at the White House. So what are the president's wins and losses so far? Stay with us. Well, the White House kicking off this week, touting the impact of President Trump's border policy ahead of his 100th day in office. White House staff, for example, as you see there, planting posters of illegal immigrants that have been arrested under the president. The signs strategically placed on the White House lawn where reporters often do their hits for television. So you saw the reporter, you saw the signs right behind him. The president also advertising his immigration crackdown on Truth Social, posting this video of a massive DEA raid at an unlawful after-hours nightclub in Colorado. The raid ended up with 100 illegal immigrants in custody. The president saying that many were drug dealers and murderers. The Department of Homeland Security also dialing in its media blitz, putting out a press release today titled 100 Days of the Most Secure Border in American History. In it, the agency says daily border encounters are down 93%. There's been over 150,000 arrests and 135,000 deportations. 600 Tren de Aragua members and thousands of MS-13 members have either been arrested or deported. And fentanyl traffic for March down over 50% compared to a year ago. The Border Czar Tom Homan pressed on why there's still a national emergency at the border if things are going like that.
It's because of what has happened in the last administration. We got to ensure that not 1 ounce of fentanyl comes across the border to kill Americans. Is an emergency so the cartels are wiped off the face of this earth. President Trump's committed to saving every life.
With me now, senior advisor at U.S. Customs and Border Protection. That man right there, Ron Vitello. Ron, nice to have you.
No,
always
great
nice
to be
see
here.
you, sir.
Thanks for inviting me.
So tell me, obviously a lot of focus on what's happened in the first 100 days. Tell me on what success looks like going forward, because I see at the southwest border, encounters down 95, 97, whatever the number is, a lot, down at the southern border. But I also look at deportations by presidents. Trump 2.0 on pace for 2 million deportations. That is well short of other presidents. Again, it's on pace at 2 months in. Why is that the case, and what does success look like in your view?
Success is sustaining everything that we're doing on the border, right? So adding technology, adding agents, more access to the border, more border wall. There's 85 miles in the pipeline since Inauguration Day, 77 miles of barrier already down. So that the encounters are down. That gives you almost 100% increase in capability at the line. So going forward, having those things in a more permanent way, sustainable over time.
Are the deportation numbers where the administration wants them to be? Or would you say that it needs to move up?
They are very good. They're doing all that they can.
Very good.
But let's not remember, we want it to be great.
Okay.
And so what has to happen is it has to be scaled up. We are still working on a budget and a foundation for the budget that was built by Joe Biden. We're using Donald Trump's priorities to activate at the border and in the interior. That information, and both of them have to be scaled up. It has to be sustained. And so that requires an additional investment, right? That means resources. And so phase 2, you scale these operations up. We go from good to great.
So that's the building behind us, right? And if Congress can deliver on, I think it's maybe like $100 billion or something of funding, if they give you that money, if they give the administration that money, you say that sort of takes you to the next level of enforcement?
That allows us to stabilize what's happening at the border, investments in technology, access, more boots on the ground, sustain what we're doing and continue. And then in the interior, they can scale up the requirements for detention and the at-large arrests.
Stephen Miller on the North Lawn today, I thought was asked a fantastic question. It was one that caught my attention, and it was basically, has Mexico done enough? Simple question, but here was his response. I want to get your reaction on the other side.
Thanks to President Trump's leadership, the Mexican government has done more than it's ever done, but it's not even close to what we need and what the president expects. There's much more that we expect from Mexico, particularly in regard to the fentanyl.
Explain what has happened with Mexico that you're satisfied with, and where do you align with Stephen Miller there, in which the administration feels you're going to push him elsewhere?
Well, we absolutely want all the help that Mexico has been giving us, but I'm an operator, and Stephen knows this very well as well. They can always do more. Everyone can always do more. We can do more.
Like what?
Well, they can sustain what they're doing. They can engage in a real partnership that says, if we're going to share the responsibility for this border, they're going to do as much as we're going to do it. So continuing the military-to-military relationship, continuing their deployments, and then having a regulation at their southern border, which would be much easier operationally to control than the northern border with us and them. So they have to continue. They have to continue to lean in. More joint prosecutions for both immigration crimes and drug smuggling at the border.
Okay.
Like I said, more leaning in operationally so that we know what's happening, more exchange of intelligence. They sent 29 wanted criminals into the United States, extradition, so that more things like that we can do together.
There has been a question of whether or not drones into Mexico is on the table or not. Ali Bradley asked this to J.D. Vance. I asked this to Stephen Miller as well in the first 100 days. Here's what they said, and again, we'll turn to it on the other side.
Since the designation of the cartels as terrorists, does that give the United States the green light to go into Mexico and to strike them there?
What designating cartel organizations allows us to do is deploy the full resources of the United States military to engage in serious border enforcement.
We use drones to drone the Houthis, which are foreign terrorist organizations. Is it under discussion for doing the same with the Mexican cartels?
I'm not going to make any news here today on that. I will just reassure you that the president will do what is necessary to keep America and Americans safe.
The White House has been hands-off on this. Is it a possibility at some point down the line? It's the same question for Stephen. If we use drones at the Houthis, which is a foreign terrorist organization, why not the cartels?
We have an unprecedented relationship right now with Mexico. They've leaned in. 10,000 of their National Guard troops are on their northern border, our southern border.
Okay.
The military-to-military relationship, they are doing things I've never seen them do before. Kinetic strikes or those kinds of things, that's a policy decision that's yet to be made.
Yet to be made.
As long as they are helping us accomplish what we need to do for the safety and security of the border and America at large, and then we can reduce the capability of these cartels, it will be much faster to do that with their help.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Ron Vitello, Senior Advisor, Customs and Border Protection. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon. All right, still to come here on The Hill. The administration touts the president's first 100 days.
Trump's first 100 days have undoubtedly been the most monumental and historic of any administration in American history.
A look at the executive orders, achievements, approval ratings. What is before the president tonight? And from politics to pigskin. why the Washington Commanders, there's a big story here in D.C. involving the stadium, billions and billions of dollars, but I'm going to explain to you tonight why I hope you saw something else. Stay with us.
Cuomo, O'Reilly, Smith, the first 100 days, a primetime event in a live town hall special.
The big voices and your voices.
Cuomo Town Hall, the first 100 days, live Wednesday, 8/7 Central, only on NewsNation.
NewsNation, there's a media blitz around the White House leading up to tomorrow, which will mark the president's 100 days in office. But I want to address today because in a way it could be symbolic of the first 100. A press briefing today and tomorrow covering two key issues, immigration and the economy.
The Trump administration is working 24/7 to successfully arrest and deport these illegal criminals and foreign terrorists from our communities. We are in the beginning stages of carrying out the largest deportation campaign in American history.
So here's what the White House did today. The aforementioned press briefing, then the president had lunch with the vice president. President Trump also meeting with the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. He hosted the 2025 Super Bowl champions and signed executive orders focusing on sanctuary cities and securing the country. Tomorrow, rinse repeat, I guess you could say, with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, discussing the economy at an 8:30 a.m., 5:30 in the morning Pacific time briefing. Tomorrow night, the president will be live in Michigan. Now, depending on who you ask and what you read and watch, the president's first 100 days are either cause for concern or celebration. One thing both sides seem to agree on is that the president's second term is showing no signs of a lame duck presidency. Love or hate the actions that he's taken, there have been a lot of them. Over 140 executive orders have been signed, with even more earlier today, a total greater than any other president in history in the first 100 days. The president signed, for example, the long-term impact to be determined, but the short-term has been rejected in polling, at least some of it. The president's first day in office, for example, all the way today, his approval rating dropped 11 points, his disapproval rating up 14. Full panel here with me now. Former senior advisor to the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, is Linda Tran. Former ambassador to Denmark and Greenland, Carla Sands. The former battleground states director for the Biden and Harris campaigns, Dan Canavan. And the former Republican Senate candidate in the state of Washington, Tiffany Smiley. Hello to you all. Thanks for being in. It is a Monday. Big week here in this town and beyond. So look, the first 100 days of the second term, the border has been a win. Yep. The president has launched tariffs. You might think that is good or bad. The economy, voters are turning sour. And the polling is, the approval rating is slowly starting to take a little bit of a dip. Tiffany.
I don't think voters aren't turning sour. I think this is just a matter of time. I mean, so much is going on and so much has been happening in 100 days that not everyone can even keep up with President Trump, to be honest. This has been the most successful and transparent presidency or first 100 days in recent memory. He is delivering on the border. That's exactly why the American people elected him. He's not just delivering, he made it happen. I mean, it's unprecedented what he's done at the border. I'm passionate about this, and I think it's President Trump standing up for women and girls in our country, but he also signed an executive order to keep boys out of girls' sports. So he is standing up for women in this country. I think we'll start to see some deals done on tariffs. I think the stock market will come back around. You know, you
didn't expect to be saying that. I think the stock market's going to come back around.
I said it at the very beginning when everyone was up in arms, but there was also a 2024 survey that evaluated Trump's previous administration on tariffs and found that it actually strengthened the economy and reshored manufacturing and steel. So it just is going to take a little bit of time.
What about what Tiffany says to the border and to an issue that hurt both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
Prices?
Well, prices. So I was going to say keeping boys out of women's sports.
Well, I will pivot to prices for a second because that's
where you guys
that is the actual issue. And the issue with boys and girls women's sports, and there's a good debate about this, but the issue is not so much that issue in a vacuum, Blake. It was about the fact that that's where the attention was perceived to be, as opposed to being on lowering prices. And Donald Trump ran on reducing prices on day one. He has not done that. The markets reacted very badly. That's 401ks and everyone's retirement accounts going south. It also means there's economic anxiety. Investment has frozen. Costs are going up. And today, an ABC poll showed that 72% of voters believe his policies are likely to cause a recession. That is disaster.
I find it poignant that Dan cut me off and said prices because you were running the battleground states. Yeah. You saw this in real time, right? And so Dan jumped in and said prices. What do you do with it now? No, that was to you, Carla. Yeah.
So the good news is the prices are coming down. So eggs have dropped a lot under Brooke Rollins' excellent leadership at USDA. The cost of gas is falling. It's now under $2 in some places in the country. So President Trump is bringing the prices down. Now, legacy media wants everyone to be terrified and to think everything's bad. Look at their coverage of the stock market coming back. You just don't see it. They're avoiding the good news. But the good news is President Trump is righting our economy. He's bringing billions of dollars in the door with tariffs.
But Americans say for all the wins at the border, the polling shows they just don't feel it at home.
They will feel it. Give it some time. This is only 100 days in. You give it time for these trade deals to percolate, for the investment to start to happen, for people to get hired in these companies. It's going to be the best economy of our lifetime is coming, just like in 2019.
I'm going to go ahead and say the unpopular thing for all messaging and communication.
I love it. Go for it, Linda Tran.
Just because you talk about the thing you want to talk about, it doesn't mean that it's the thing people actually care about. So what we've seen today is the White House talking immigration. That's great. But what people actually care about are the prices they see at the grocery store. And with all respect to the ambassador, I'm not seeing those prices budge. You're still seeing $9 eggs on the shelf.
But it is both, right? Because immigration was a massive issue. Yep. And the president did ride that into the Oval. And I think there's a conversation of how Democrats still try to grapple with that going forward.
To a certain subset of the population. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of the polls these people are responding to. You're seeing poll after poll after poll. To Dan's point earlier, showing that what people care about is economy, and here's what's worse. They don't believe the president is doing anything about it. And then if you look at the trend lines and the intensity, the numbers are not good overall.
Real quickly, show me the boxes real quick of what the president's done in the first 100 days. So already done. Southern border encounters, DOJ estimated savings, imposed sweeping tariffs. The Republicans are nodding because they think all this is great. The president campaigned on this and he delivered.
The DOJ stuff is complete bogus. There's $63 billion of actually itemized on the wall of receipts, and most of it's riddled with errors. He says it's that much money, but it's not. He said it was $2 trillion, then $1 trillion. It's actually in the tens of billions. And by the way, there's more money in legal fees because of how hackneyed this job has been than actual savings cuts. There's nothing to show for the DOJ stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just look at my old Department of Transportation. They let go 4,700 people as part of the deferred resignation program, and now they're begging them to come back. Okay. So it's not only that the numbers don't add up to what they're claiming, they're causing chaos that is going to harm. So
that's to your side. I want to get, though, to what hasn't been done, which is ending the Ukraine war. The sprawling tax cuts, to be fair, that is TBD. That was never going to happen overnight, and they're doing that right now. And the stock market boom. There's still unchecked boxes there, Carla.
Yeah, there are, but it's coming. You have to give Congress time to pass the greatest tax cut in the history of the country. They're not going to let every American have a tax increase that is the highest ever. They're just not. They're going to pass it. And then you can see what's happening. Energy dominance working. It's all working. Maha, getting the bad dyes out of our food. There is so much effort by so many really good people. It's an exciting time.
It is interesting, to your point, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and sort of the food dye stuff. That was lost in all of this. But I'll give you the last word here because there are still a lot of unchecked boxes there, Tiffany.
Right, but it's the first 100 days again. It's going to take time. Something had to be done. Like globalists and our financial elitists sold our country out, really, and focused more on profit margins than they did the American consumer. And so President Trump is now the one who is taking action. We also have to remember that he was handed, we didn't have leadership on the world stage. The failed departure out of Afghanistan, I still talk about that because that is the reason that Putin was emboldened to go into Ukraine. So now Trump is here and trying to fix all of this for our country and the world.
By the way, I would note the president tomorrow night in Michigan and then Wednesday, Hakeem Jeffries as well. For the rebuttal. So you're going to hear from both sides, kind of like what you just heard here.
It'll be great.
On the Hill. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. All right, still to come. By the way, Wednesday, Chris Cuomo holds a special town hall on the president's first 100 days. Bill O'Reilly, Stephen A. Smith, and a special appearance from the president. Pre-show starts at 7, right after us here on the Hill, followed by the town hall on NewsNation. Other side of the break. The NFL draft wrapped up this weekend, don't you know? Did you see what the Washington Commanders did? There is a really big story in this town today. about a really expensive stadium, but I'm going to explain to you why there's another headline you should see. And coming up on Elizabeth Vargas Reports, the DEA says it's arrested more than 100 illegal immigrants. The special agent in charge of that bus joins Elizabeth live. My take. Hope you stay for it on the other side. Different version of the political gridiron, the Washington Commanders announcing they'll be building a new stadium in D.C. Price tag $3.7 billion, of which roughly $1 billion could eventually come from public funds. Now, you can imagine a big debate is starting to play out about that. While that makes the headlines, I want to show you a different story involving the Commanders. After this week's NFL draft, the Commanders, just like every other NFL team, started inviting undrafted prospects to their rookie minicamps. And for the Commanders, that included Gabe Taylor, a safety from Rice University. Gabe Taylor is the younger brother to the late All-Pro safety Sean Taylor. Now, in 2007, at the age of 24, Sean Taylor was killed during a burglary inside his home. In the many years since, Washington's organization has not forgotten Sean Taylor. His number 21 retired by the franchise in 2021. And they continue to work with the Sean Taylor Legacy Project, an initiative run by Taylor's daughter. In 2022, as a sophomore at Rice, Gabe Taylor was quoted in Sports Illustrated about possibly playing for the Commanders. He said, "I want to wear number 21 for the Commanders." So while many are focusing on the new stadium and how much it will cost, it shouldn't be lost what was gained over the weekend. In a town where Monday morning quarterbacking, just about everything is its own sport, all these years later, a perfect fit. Gabe Taylor now has his opportunity to wear number 21 for Washington. I'll be rooting him on. And that's my take.